Welcome to Let's Talk About It. Here we go! Oh! Oh no! Oh my god! No, no way! Oh! It's Saber Oh, look at these fights! Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to Let's Talk About It, the show where we talk about everything going on in the movie, TV, and video game world. I am your host, Infinity, and I go out and find the topics I'm interested in. Topics that I think you guys will like, topics that interest me, of course, as well, but topics I think you guys would also be interested in as well. And with that all out of the way, let's start off with our first topic here today. Star Wars. Star Wars, it's been a long time since they've done a movie. A long time. I believe since 2019. And, we do have the Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming out, which is basically Mandalorian Season 4 in movie form. But, back on that Disney Investors Day, another something was for a film was announced, and that was Lando. And we've been waiting for this movie. We have been waiting for this Lando movie for quite a while. And, Donald Glover here, according to comicbooknews.com, gives us kind of an update. This is what they have to say. Lando, Donald Glover, reveals he hopes to bring to Star Wars franchise with long-delayed movie. Donald Glover, he's talking about, this film, talking about what he possibly wants to see in the movie. This is what he kind of, says he wants to see. He says, I think it's important that there needs to be fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening. Those are the only things that connect us weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is what we have a responsibility to have enjoyment. And I feel like we're lacking in that department. So basically what I think he's trying to say here is that he wants to make a fun Star Wars movie. A fun Star Wars movie, I think really when they announced this film, I kind of thought like, oh, this is going to take place during the rebellion. Well, how can someone like Lando make his way in a war-torn universe? When there's war going on, how can he make his money and become the sneaky aristocrat that he becomes when we see him in episode in episode 5 of Star Wars. I think he was one of the parts I enjoyed about Solo. I enjoyed Lando and Solo. I have been somewhat excited and quite hesitant on this Lando movie. I still don't think it's going to get made. I'm still in the opinion this movie was announced 4 years ago. 4 years ago. And this is the thing with Disney. They keep announcing Star Wars movies and then doing nothing with them. It's like, you should announce a movie, get your scripts ready, shoot the movie, release the movie. I can't tell you guys how many Star Wars projects they have announced that they're just like, nope, didn't work out. What's the point of announcing it if, it's never going to get made? I think, this is very, very, upsetting, that we have not got this movie yet. I know Donald Glover wants to continue to play the character of Lando Calrissian, but honestly, right now, I don't see him continuing, playing this role. I don't even see them doing a movie in the first place, because the Star Wars right now is so indecisive about how they assign projects, They're like, oh, we're going to do this big, Avengers level Star Wars movie where our TV show characters are going to team up to take on Thrawn. I'm like, yeah, but you did Thrawn and Ahsoka, didn't really build up to anything, and now you're going to do this Lando movie? It's like, they're just announcing too much stuff. Now, the question is, would I be excited to see a Lando movie? Of course I would. I'm game for see anything in the Star Wars universe as long as it's good and I'm going to enjoy it. And like I said before, I enjoyed Lando's the Solo Star Wars story, but that movie did not do well at the box office at that time. It was a very decisive film. Some people liked it, a lot of people didn't like it, but I still don't really see this movie happening. But what do you guys think? Do you think there's a hope for this Lando movie to come into fruition, or do you think it's already dead in the water? And would you want to see Donald Glover continue to play Lando in the Star Wars universe? Leave your comments down below, and let's move on to our next topic here today. So, guys, let's move on to this topic here. Thunderbolts. Probably my most anticipated movie of 2025. And I know there's a bunch of other great movies coming out in 2025, but this movie is the one I'm excited for because it feels like it has like all my favorite MCU characters currently like in a movie. If that's Yelena Belova, John Walker, Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, and also seeing characters I want to learn more about in Ghost and Taskmaster. You got also Sentry possibly showing up in here, and also kind of diving into kind of like back into like the grounded side of the MCU, which that's one of my favorite sides of the Marvel universe. Well, we all know that Thunderbolts has that little asterisk on it, and Kevin Feige has let us know is like when you see the movie, you will know what that asterisk means. And we've all thought like, oh, maybe this is Dark Avengers, because sometimes in the comics the Thunderbolts do come to Dark Avengers. Well, according to a new rumor, it might not be Dark Avengers, but something else. According to them, we may know what the asterisk in Thunderbolts signifies. Possible spoilers. So if you guys don't want to hear it, this is all rumor, but this is a bit spoilerish, like not for the movie, but for like what that asterisk might mean when the film comes out. So let's talk about it. According to comicbookmovie.com, guys, that asterisk accordingly means, according to My Time to Shine, they said it means New Avengers. Now, this actually makes sense. I'm going to tell you why this makes sense. We know that in some of the footage they've shown for Captain America Brave New World, in that trailer, it tells like President Ross wants to make Steve Rogers, official military position. Well, then there's another time when people have watched that, kind of at CinemaCon and Comic-Con, where it said, I want you to assemble a new Avengers. So right now, I think what's happening is the U.S. government wants to have their own type of superhero team, their own Avengers. A group of heroes that kind of work under them, which is basically the Thunderbolts in a portal way. But New Avengers makes sense because because there was a point in the comics where like there was an Avengers team, comprised of they were all these villains dressed up as superheroes. You had Bullseye as Hawkeye, Norman Osborn dressed up as the Iron Patriot. You had Wolverine's son, Draken, dressed up in a Wolverine costume. You had like a four-armed Spider-Man, It has happened in the comics before. And, I think, Thunderbolts and Brave New World are going to be very much connected, very, very much connected, because a lot of those characters exist in the same world. And, I think, they will be called, I think by the end of Thunderbolts, they will meet President Ross, and they will be introduced as the new Avengers. Because I think what's going to happen is, in Brave New World, Sam and Thunderbolt Ross are going to have kind of, different decisions on how to assemble this Avengers team. I think, Sam, is going to do what Sam does. He doesn't conform to what people want him to be, how everyone else wanted him to be the next Steve Rogers. He wanted to be the first him. And I think that's really going to be a powerful thing in the movie. Now, the thing is, the question is, who gets their Avengers team out first? You would have this Avengers team by the U.S. government, probably led by Yelena Belova or John Walker. And, it could be very, very interesting. A very interesting dilemma. You could really have an Avengers versus Dark Avengers story in the future. This is obviously very exciting to me because Thunderbolts, I feel like I think a lot of people aren't talking about like how this movie might be more important than they might think. Because, sure it's a grounded film, sure it's not really being talked about, but I think, the potential, for where we're going to meet these heroes in Doomsday, in Secret Wars, is going to be through this film, I think what they're building towards is that we're building towards a very divided Earth right now, where there's a lot of people just picking sides. We kind of saw that in Wakanda Forever. Well, if all these people are just trying to focus on them and trying to make their countries better, what happens when the real threat, Doctor Doom, comes? Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom comes and attacks. They won't be ready for it, just kind of like how in Civil War, the Avengers were split apart, and they weren't really ready for when Thanos came because they were all like fighting each other instead of banding together to fight this one threat. I do believe, that is going to be a main point starting off in this next Avengers movie. But what do you guys think? Do you think Thunderbolts is going to be called New Avengers instead of Dark Avengers? What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. Let's move on to our third topic here today. And we're switching now from Marvel over to the other big superhero studio in DC. We got a little show coming out later today, which I'm excited to watch, called The Penguin. Yes, The Penguin. Yes, I'm very excited. And, it has been confirmed that Carmine Falcone will be in the series, but we all know Carmine Falcone died and was played by the great John Turturro in that film, and John Turturro slammed it out of the park in The Batman. Well, according to thecomicmovie.com, we got a reason why he was being replaced by none other than Mark Strong. According to them, the Penguin showrunner explains why Mark Strong replaces John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Now, it's not going to be like he's being the same age. They're doing flashbacks to like the early days of Penguin. Shows how Oz Cobblepot really got into league with the Falcone family, like how he really became who he was, the Penguin. And according to like what he said, it said they tried to get him back. They really tried to get Turturro back, but this is what they had to say. Well, practically, John was just unavailable to us. He had scheduling conflicts, and we couldn't make it work. But honestly, I'm so thrilled that we brought Mark Strong on. I think he's really good. Really good. This is what they told IGN. Now, that is a valid reason. John Turturro, he's he's one of my favorite actors. Of course, I am a huge fan of his performance in the Transformers movies. I love Simmons. Simmons really made me laugh so many times in Transformers films. I loved him in the Batman. I've loved him in his other roles. If that's The Big Lebowski, Severance. He's one of those, I think, actors, John Turturro, who's like not talked about as like one of like who's like a really great actor. Now, my thoughts on Mark Strong. I'm looking at this image. Mark Strong does look like a young John Turturro in this film. So, like, I'm excited to see that. Mark Strong, guys, he's going to be in The Penguin, and then he's going to be in Dune Prophecy. This man is getting into some high-profile franchises right now. But, I can see, in this image, Mark Strong is Carmine Falcone. I can believe that he's a younger version of him. So, I don't really have a problem with it. But maybe some people do. Personally, I don't have it. John Turturro, very big name actor. Hard probably to convince him to be in a show when he's already in a show like Severance, and he's also doing all this other stuff that we probably don't know about. But guys, what do you think about this? About the replacement for the Penguin from John Turturro to Mark Strong? Personally, I'm alright with it. But guys, let's move on to our final topic here today. And that is this. We have a little show called Lanterns. Lanterns is coming. Lanterns is coming. And, we've all had our big, few weeks ago, I think maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we had this huge thing going around, who's going to be Hal Jordan? It was going to be possibly Josh Brolin. We're hearing Chris Pratt. We're hearing Matthew McConaughey. All these, really big name actors possibly signing up for this Lantern show. But I think the one thing that's going to make this show is not Hal Jordan, in my opinion. I think Jon Stewart might be one of your most important casting for the show. Because Jon Stewart is one of the best Green Lanterns they have ever written in comics. I was first introduced to the character of Jon Stewart through the Justice League animated series. And for a long time, I always thought, it was Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart who were the verified badass Green Lanterns, And I think, you could either have Hal Jordan be your Green Lantern in Justice League, or you could even have Jon Stewart be your Green Lantern. Personally, I love Hal Jordan. He's my man, but Jon Stewart, he's also my man as well. I'm fine with either one of these characters because, they're so different, Hal Jordan is more of the cocky airline pilot, who thinks, he can do everything. Well, you have Jon Stewart, he was a soldier. He's down there, fighting. He was a soldier and he felt like, he had, when he became Green Lantern, he felt he had found his calling, a way to help people more than when he was a soldier. And, you go the Jon Stewart route, you can deal with a lot of things. You can deal with PTSD. There were points in that Justice League show where Jon Stewart was dealing with PTSD. And, we just got that Green Lantern Beware My Power animated film that starred Aldous Hodge as Green Lantern. Well, according to a new rumor, we might know who our Jon Stewart might be. According to them, DC Studios rumored to be eyeing Elvis and Cavalier Star to play DCU's Jon Stewart. Now, you're probably wondering, who is this guy? Who are they looking for right now? Well, the name of the actor they're looking for is an actor named Kelvin Harrison Jr. Now, that name probably does not sound familiar to you at all. But, he's actually got a pretty, good coterie of films, in my opinion. I believe, if you guys, he was in the film Loose. I believe he was the main star in this Loose movie. Yeah, I believe he was the main actor in that movie. But, he recently was also in Elvis. Yes, a very big Elvis star. Also had roles in 12 Years a Slave, roles in The Trial of Chicago. He's been in other big studio movies like Ender's Game, Assassination Nation. So he has a pretty good list of films he has started. Now, I do think this is a good casting. Why do I think it's good casting? You're getting an actor who has been in the industry for a few years, hasn't really had the chance to show that he can be a big name. And, you can see the type of movie, he's been in if you look at 12 Years a Slave, The Trial of Chicago, Loose, Monsters, and Men. A lot of, movies, I think, about civil rights, about rights for people. And, I think, through those movies, he can play Jon Stewart in an interesting way, Jon Stewart, it's a I think, this show might also deal with the police side. I don't try to get into politics that much. But, I talk about, real inhumane issues, a lot of people are afraid of the police nowadays. A lot of people are. And now we're telling a story of intergalactic peace cops. Space cops. That's what the show's about. And James Gunn said, this is like a true detective story in the DC universe. So you can deal with some very heavy things. You have Hal Jordan, who's a seasoned Green Lantern, training, this younger Green Lantern in Jon Stewart, who might feel like Jon Stewart might feel like he has a better view of the world, better than Hal Jordan, where Hal Jordan thinks, he can save everyone. Hal Jordan is the guy to save everyone. Well, Jon Stewart's like, hey, even though we have this power, we can help so many people. We can fix things. I think it's really going to be about how teaching Jon, even though we have the power to do anything we want with these rings, that means nothing if we're not going to use them to help the right people and not the people to help ourselves. I think Kelvin Harris Jr. would be a great pick. Of course, I have other picks as well. I want. I think the actor who was just an alien Romulus, who played Andy, I think would be a great choice. I hear a lot of people wanting the guy who's just starring that movie on Netflix called Rebel Ridge to take over the role. And, I, of course, still have hope that maybe DC will go out and get Aldous Hodge, to play Green Lantern, because I am a huge Aldous Hodge fan, if that's to his work in Black Adam and some of the other, smaller indie films he has done. But, guys, what do you think? Kelvin Harrison Jr. might be our Jon Stewart. What do you guys think about this rumor? Do you think it's a good casting, or do you think they should go for someone more high profile to play this character? And guys, that's it for this episode. Let's talk about it. Leave your comments down below. Like the video, comment on the video, and always put in the comments because if any other stories you want me to talk about, or any other things you just want me to talk about, or just ask me any questions you have about movies, TV, and video games. And I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.